She was alone in the gear shed when the drill finally ended, the kind of quiet that only comes after hours of engines, shouted commands, and boots slamming against metal. The sun had dipped low, turning the dust in the air amber, and the rest of the platoon had already peeled off toward the barracks or the mess hall. She stayed behind, as she usually did, breaking down rifles, wiping salt from metal, coiling ropes with practiced precision. It was unglamorous work, the kind that never made it into highlight reels, but it calmed her. There was order in it. Purpose. Her name tape read Rivera, stitched in regulation black, slightly frayed at the edges. Beneath it, on the shoulder of her fatigues, sat a patch most people never noticed at first glance. It was subdued, nearly blending into the fabric, the symbol small and easily dismissed as just another unit marking. She liked it that way. Attention was a liability. She set a helmet on the bench, fingers moving automatically, checking the straps, brushing away grit. The door creaked behind her, a sound that barely registered at first. People came and went all the time. She didn't look up. "Hey," a voice said, low, cautious. "You almost done?" She recognized the tone before the face. Navy SEALs had a particular way of speaking when they weren't barking orders, measured, economical, like every word cost something. She glanced up and saw him standing just inside the doorway, broad shoulders filling the frame, trident pin catching the last of the light. His name tape read Hawkins. "Almost," she said, returning to her work. "If you're here for the radios, give me 5. "That's not why I'm here," he replied. She paused, finally meeting his eyes. He wasn't staring at her face, though. His gaze had dropped to her shoulder. To the patch. He took a step closer, slow, as if he wasn't entirely sure he was welcome. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in suspicion, but in disbelief. "No way," he whispered, more to himself than to her. She exhaled softly and set the helmet down. "You're staring," she said, not unkindly. "Sorry," he said quickly, then shook his head. "It's just that patch. Where did you get it?" She studied him for a moment, weighing how much to say. The shed felt smaller now, the quiet heavier. "I earned it," she said. He let out a short breath, half a laugh, half something else. "That's not funny. I'm not joking." Silence stretched between them. Outside, someone shouted, a truck backfired, life on base rolling on without them. Hawkins looked like a man trying to reconcile two conflicting realities. "I've only seen that patch on a handful of people," he said slowly. "Most of them don't like to talk about it." She wiped her hands on a rag. "Then you know better than to ask." He nodded, chastened. Yeah, I do." But his curiosity hadn't died. It had sharpened. They stood there, two soldiers from different paths that had somehow crossed in a dusty gear shed. She expected him to leave it alone. Most people did once they realized there was more behind her quiet competence than met the eye. But Hawkins didn't move. "My first deployment," he said suddenly, "there was a team attached to us. Different branch, different rules. They saved our asses more than once." She didn't respond, but she listened. "There was one operator," he continued, eyes unfocused now, lost in memory. "Didn't say much. Smallest one there, but nobody questioned them. Ever. Had that same patch. I asked my chief about it later. He just said, if you see that, you say thank you and you don't ask questions." A corner of her mouth lifted, just slightly. "Smart chief. Is it the same unit?" he asked, careful now. She hesitated, then shrugged. "Units change names. Missions change shapes. The work stays the same." He nodded slowly, respect settling in where disbelief had been. "I didn't think they still. I heard rumors." "Rumors are safer than facts," she said. "Facts get people killed." He absorbed that, then glanced at the gear around them. "You're not assigned to us," he said. "At least, not on paper." "No," she agreed. "So why are you here?" She picked up another piece of equipment, turning it in her hands. "Because drills show you how people move when nothing's really at stake," she said. "And because someone needs to watch." "Watch for what?" "For cracks," she replied. "In systems. In habits. In people." He raised an eyebrow. "And do you see any?" She looked at him then, really looked. Saw the tension he carried even off the clock, the scars he didn't bother to hide, the fatigue etched deep despite his controlled posture. "Everyone has cracks," she said. "The trick is knowing which ones matter." He chuckled quietly. "You always talk like this." "Only when I'm tired." That earned a real smile from him. He leaned against a crate, less guarded now. "You know," he said, "half the guys out there think you're logistics." She snorted. Good. The other half think you're intel. Also good. And none of them think you're, he gestured vaguely at her patch. That's the best part. They fell into an easy rhythm after that, conversation drifting from safe topics to shared frustrations. She finished cleaning the last of the gear, stacking it neatly. Hawkins didn't rush her. He seemed content just to be there, absorbing the quiet. Did you ever miss it? He asked after a while. The other work. She considered the question seriously. I miss the clarity, she said. When everything boiled down to a single objective. But I don't miss the cost. What cost was that? She met his gaze, and for a moment the walls she kept so carefully maintained thinned. Pieces of yourself, she said. You don't notice them going at first. Then one day you realize you're lighter than you used to be. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Yeah. Outside, the sky had gone dark. The shed lights hummed overhead. I shouldn't have said anything, he said eventually. About the patch. It's fine, she replied. You noticed. That means you're observant. Or paranoid. Those aren't mutually exclusive. He laughed softly. If anyone else asks. They won't, she said. They don't see what you see. He straightened, suddenly more serious. If you ever need anything, he said, then stopped, as if unsure how to finish. I mean, I know you probably don't. But still, she studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I'll remember that. He hesitated at the door, then glanced back. For what it's worth, he said, I'm glad you're watching. She gave a small, genuine smile. Me too. After he left, she stood alone again, the quiet returning. She reached up and brushed her fingers over the patch, feeling the familiar weight of memory it carried. It wasn't about pride. It never had been. It was about responsibility. Outside, the base lights flickered on, one by one. Somewhere, another drill would be planned, another mission imagined. She turned off the shed lights and stepped into the night, unseen, exactly where she needed to be.